Good morning, everybody. I'm Kate Bulkley. I'm a journalist. I have a US accent, but I've lived in Europe for 20 years now, believe it or not. I write about media, telecoms, and technology, and basically I'm here to be the chair of the day for Activate. I'm very happy to see you all, and we have a really interesting lineup. Hope we'll get some interesting discussions, and I know you'll make wonderful connections in some of the networking sessions and some of the breakout sessions, so welcome. This is the third annual conference for Activate in London, so welcome to that. We also recently had the first international Activate conference in New York. It was in April. I don't know how many of you went to that, but those of you who came from across the pond and want to continue your Activate sequence can come again to Activate in New York, which is going to happen in April of next year. So that'll be our next Activate event in New York, April 2012. Before we get started, first I'd like to thank our sponsors, because as you know, without them, we can't do these events. We have several: Taylor Wessing, the Vodafone Foundation, the UN Foundation, and the Omidar Network. Thank you to all of them. And also there are two reports, one from the Taylor Wessing people and one from the UN Foundation. You'll find them in the networking area. Please feel free to take those reports and use them. They want you to see them, obviously. I also want to thank some other sponsors, because as some of you may know, we had our first ever Hacktivate, which preceded this conference today, where we actually had some people who weren't getting together to talk like we're going to do today, but they actually got together to actually do something, create some practical tools with technology. We're going to hear more about that later today, but I wanted to thank the sponsors for that. They are Blue Via and also Nokia. So thank you for them. Thank you to them. And I also think there's going to be a film about that later, so hang on for that later in the day. So we'll see what those guys got up to, guys and gals got up to. The other thing I wanted to just say was that in terms of this day, we have a couple of moments when we break out into different rooms. If you don't actually go to the room, in other words, if you go to the wrong room and you want to see what's going on in the other room, there will be clips and things like that up on the website, so don't despair. So pick one and know that you'll be able to get some access to the other one as well afterwards. So without further ado, let's start. Technology, as you know, and the internet are really powerful tools. This is not news to any of us in this room, but it certainly is increasingly the case. We see technology and the internet both at work in the Middle East, where protests by people in the streets have been propelled and fortified by social networking and by their mobile phones. We see it in disaster areas where people are using SMS to gather vital information for their very survival. We've seen it with WikiLeaks, where classified information is given a global and very public airing, not to everyone's liking, and it seems to attract both condemnation and praise almost in equal measure. Clearly, the world we live in is being transformed by technology. Some people even say overtaken by technology. Today, we're going to hear from some of the people who are using technology to do all kinds of things, to change things, to connect people, to hold governments to account, to tackle big problems like poverty, and to galvanize groups of like-minded people together on a scale and at a speed unprecedented before the internet and social networking. Most of what you will hear today, I hope, will inspire you. And I hope it will also motivate you in your own projects, as well as possibly getting involved in some other ones that you hear about today. We will also look at some of the issues surrounding the spread and use of technology that are perhaps somewhat more worrying. For example, is technology helping perpetuate a top-down approach to development, or can it truly inspire grassroots movements? And what are the dangers around cool technologies like mapping and facial recognition being hijacked by companies and governments who would use them to exploit and control the users? We often say that technology is neutral, but it can be far from neutral depending on who is wielding it and to what ends. Certainly there's a lot here to discuss, and we're going to get started with our opening panel, which is called "How do we employ power and principles of the web to tackle the world's biggest problems?" We have 5 speakers. They're going to go in order. They each have about 10 minutes to tell you their take on this, and then we'll have some time for discussion and also questions from you guys. So our first up is Alec Ross. He's Senior Advisor for Innovation at the US State Department. He spearheads the 21st Century Statecraft Initiative. He leads the State Department efforts to find practical technology solutions to global issues from poverty to human rights. Alec.